Can you hear me okay? You're muted, Tony, but
Yes, no
wave at me
problem.
if you can hear me.
Yes, we hear you.
Yes, we could hear you.
Okay, fantastic. So welcome everybody to the Fields-CFI workshop on the mathematics and statistics of anti-money laundering. Certainly an important topic that gives us very interesting mathematical and statistical problems and has important social impact. Before we begin, we wish to acknowledge this land on which the University of Toronto operates. For thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. Today, this meeting place is still the home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. Our first speaker today is José Francisco Martínez Sánchez from Universidad Autónoma del Estado de Hidalgo. Professor Sánchez holds a bachelor's degree in applied mathematics and computer science from UNAM, a master's degree in operations research from the same institution, and a doctorate in financial sciences from the Monterrey Institute of Technology, and a doctorate in economics from the IPN. He has specialized courses in ITIL, COBIT, ISO 9000 standards and audits, as well as project management certification courses at the Project Management Institute. In academia, he has taught courses at undergraduate, master's, and doctoral level in institutions such as UNAM, IPM, UDLAP, IBERO, and UAEH. He has several publications and given presentations at national and international conferences on topics such as risk management, stochastic simulation, quantitative finance, data science, and machine learning. He has more than 25 years of experience in private, public, and social sector companies in management positions, highlighting projects developed in the financial sector, Mexican stock exchange, banking institutions, brokerage houses, and the federal government. During the last 15 years, he has worked as a consultant in institutions in the pension sector, fintech, microfinance, and the government sector. And today he'll be speaking to us about money laundering control in Mexico, a risk management approach through regression trees. So please, whenever you're ready.
Okay, we should be able to hear you now. Yeah. Well, the agenda for today is introduction, element of risk, type of rates, risk control methodology for money laundering prevention. In specific, we use Regression tree for inherent risk measurement, data description, risk factor for money laundering, result, and conclusion. Okay. Imposing money laundering mainly consists of 3 stages. The first one is placement. The funds are placed in legitimate financial system, making money deposit in cash or investing in financial instrument. Instruments like shares, like a bond, like derivatives, like futures, inclusive commodities. The second stage is laundering. It involves moving money through the various financial transactions. For example, bank transfer, real estate, or luxury good purchase. And finally, integration. Integrating laundering money back into the economy. This is the stage for money laundering in Mexico. Okay, in Mexico, we have a lot of problems related with the money laundering. Mexico faces a wide variety of social, political, and economic problems. Like this, Vinicius tax revenue affect competition, mainly in the rate sector. Financial institutions associated with money laundering and has impact in the reputation. And can distort prices to exported and imported consumption goods. Fit the cycle of crime and corruption. This is in general, the problem that Mexico faces. Okay. In Mexico, there are regulatory authorities responsible for making policies, making rules in order to prevent the money laundering. In particular, law and credit institutions establish that financial institutions are obligated to have a method to analyze and assess risk. In this regard, the present research proposes a statistical technique to analyze and quantify the money laundering risk to which financial institution expose. The focus is know your customer, identifying and knowing the customer through the information provided and transaction profiling. Well, the first step for this methodology is identify type of risk. The first one is transaction risk. Transaction risk is related with the transaction profile of the customer. The second one is institutional risk. It's failures in internal control, administrative failures, automation, legal, and untrained employees. And the last one is inherent risk. It relates with economic activities and geographic location of the customer. In my work, I focus on this type of risk, inherent risk, only in this type of risk. Well, for each type of risk, we have a risk element of factor of risk. For the first one, we have initial operation, relevant operation, internal worrying, and operation in cash. This is important to identify for future transaction risk. Possible transactions that are or should have made or intend to make must be observed. It's important. Well, the second one, institutional risk, we have 3 risk element or factor elements. Automation level. The level automation is better by having a good structure, internal structure. Operation making a good internal structure or employee collusion make the institution more vulnerable. Okay, and finally training. A good training of using may generate better internal and external result. Yeah. Inherent risk. Inherent risk, we have a lot of risk element. For example, customer identification, customer knowledge, product and services, country and geographic areas, politically exposed people. In Mexico, we have, for example, 33 states of the republic. So we need to identify well the state. Okay, we use a regression tree for inherent risk measurement. Those inherent risks. Yeah. We identify 5 variables, independent variables for my model. Legal entity, natural person or legal person, origin, state of the republic. In case of Mexico, we have 33 states, economic activity, seniority, and contract products. This is the variables, independent variables. Okay, for assigned priority level of risk, we need assigned prior level of risk, low and high, was taken in consideration 2 aspects. The first one is the experience of the expert of the institution, the experience, and the second is the criteria state in the non-language assessment should be coordinated and implemented by the Ministry of Finance in Mexico. For this should be participate 20 banks in Mexico. 20 banks. Okay. We use decision tree was used to calculate the posteriori level of risk of the customer or user, considering the 5 independent variables. These variables: legal, origin, economic, seniority, and contract. With classification techniques, the objective is to predict an event. In this case, the predict event is a high or low risk. Okay, in the present work, the analysis is based in chi-square automatic integration detection, CADE, which proposed by CAS. Okay, data description. We use information for the obligate subject. Obligate subject is a banks in Mexico. For my work, about give me information. The bank is related with the real estate activities. Obligate subject. The table 3 shows a sample of the database from the obligate subject, state in Mexico. Here we can see the variables, legal entity, origin, economic activity, seniority, and contract product. For example, natural person is from Estado de Mexico, economic activity, service sector employee, seniority 150, and contract product was individual credit. Another example, natural person from Estado de Mexico, economic activity, service sector employed, 120, and control project was individual rate. And other example, natural person is from Baja California. Economic activities retired, 116, contracted project was individual rate. This is the original database from a bank. Okay. To determine the initial risk level of customer or user, the risk factors are analyzed and standardized process is carried out considering the result of the purpose money laundering assessment should be. Okay, data standardization. We consider the result of the commercial banking segment. The table 4 shows the economic activities that the money laundering assessment should be considered most risky. Okay, this table shows the level of risk by activity. For example, vulnerable activities, 17 obligated subjects considered is a high risk activity. So we assign a high level of risk. Some of the financial entities, 8 obligated subjects considered is a high risk activity, some of the financial entities. So we assign a high level of risk. Manufacturing and distribution of weapons, 6 obligated subjects considered is a high risk activity. So we assign a high level of risk. Purchase and sale of gasoline, 5 obligated subjects considered is a high risk activity. So we assign a high level of risk. Trade unions, 4 obligated subjects considered is a high risk activity. So we assign a low risk level. So other case, sales companies, religious organizations, political parties, the obligated subject considered is a high risk activity. So we assign a low risk. It's the same construction, livestock raising, public sector employed. In this case, the obligated subject, 2 obligated subjects considering these activities is a high risk. So we assign a low level of risk. This for activities, level of risk by activity. Okay. This table presents the state of Mexican Republic. Assessment should be considered most risky. In this case, the state, for example, Michoacán, Sinaloa, Jalisco, Ciudad de México, Nuevo León, Baja California, México. For example, for C1, Michoacán, 10 obligated subjects considered is a high risk state in Mexico, Michoacán. So we assign a high risk, level of high risk. Sinaloa, 10 obligated subjects. Remember, obligated subject is a bank. 10 obligated subjects consider Sinaloa is a high risk state. So we assign a high level of risk. Ciudad de México, only 7 obligated subjects considered is a high risk state. So we assign a high level of risk. Nuevo León is the same, Baja California is the same. Those 7 obligated subjects considered is a high risk state. So we assign the high level of risk. Veracruz and, for example, Tamaulipas, 4. Those 4 obligated subjects considered is a high risk state. So we assign a low risk level. This for state of the Mexican Republic. Right. This table show the product that according to the money laundering risk assessment should be are considered risky. Products, international transfer. 7 obligated subjects considered is a high risk product, international transfer. So we assign a high level of risk. Investment, 5 obligated subjects considered is a high risk product. So we assign a high level of risk. Trading, trust, checking account, cash transaction, 4 obligated subject considered is a high risk product. So we assign a high level of risk. Electronic transfer, only 2 obligated subjects considered is a high risk product. So we assign a low level of risk. It is the same for corporate credit and foreign exchange operation. Only 2 obligated subjects considered is a high risk product. So we assign a level of risk. Yeah. So level of risk by product. Well, customer information base is considering risk classification, together with the fact that natural persons have a higher risk than the moral ones, and the level of seniority that graded risk. The base information includes customer status and dependent variable as a dependent variable. Customer status as a dependent variable. We represent a priori risk classification. Okay. The following table shows a sample of customer database that include the initial classification assigned to a client by obligated subject. 0 is low risk and 1 is high risk. Well, this is the a priori risk level. This is the independent variables, legal entity, origin, economic activity, seniority, and contract products, and customer status. For example, the first one is natural person, origin from Mexico, Estado de Mexico, economic activity, service sector employed, seniority 152, contract products, gas individual credit, and customer status 0. It's a priori. Natural person from Ciudad de Mexico, service sector employee, seniority 127, contract products is individual credit, and customer status is 0. Another example, natural person is from Estado de Mexico, economic activity is service sector employee, seniority is 120, individual credit, and customer status is 0. Natural person from Mexico, Estado de Mexico, economic activity labor, seniority 74, contract product investment, customer status 1. And finally, natural person from Baja California, economic activity, service sector employed, seniority 58, contract product investment, customer status 1. This is a priori risk level, a priori risk level. Okay. Result. The regression framework was implemented, choosing the variable customer status as a dependent variable, customer status. This one, customer status, this is dependent variable. This is independent variables. Yeah. And the variables legal entity, origin, economic activity, seniority, and contract products as a predictor variables. Customers were classified as high risk or low risk based in probability threshold of 0.5 and considering the two statistically significant variables, contracted product and customer seniority. Only these variables are statistically significant: contract products and customer seniority. Only this. If the probability is higher than this threshold, the customer is classified as a high risk. Otherwise, he or she is classified a low risk. Now, these three show the result. The only statistically significant variable is product. This product and antiquity or seniority. Only this variable has statistically significance. Product and antiquity. Yeah. Product individual credit, we can see 100% is a low risk individual credit. The other side, attracting company, individual, and other products has 10% or low risk and high risk 2%. After that, antiquity, low risk is 37% and high risk is 62%, with a 5-6 or less for seniority. And the other side, greater than 56 antiquity, we have a low risk 0% and high risk 100%. So, products such as investment, business products, and individual products are the most risky. Business products and individual products are the most risky. Please. Customer with 56 months or more of seniority has riskier than those with less seniority. This is 56 or less, high risk, low risk. This is most risky, rather than 56 months. Is more risky than this. And the two variables, contracted product and customer seniority, are the only ones that are statistically significant. Those contract products and antiquity. Only these variables are statistically significant. And the variables origin, legal entity, and economic activity are not statistically significant for classifying customer, are not statistically significant. Well, conclusion. In Mexico, despite of effort to control the waste, the organized crime still capable of violating security mechanisms of the financial system. It's a huge problem. In Mexico, several money laundering cases have been detected, both in formal banking sector and alternative institutions. Alternative institutions like Sofipo, Sofomes, Socap, FinTech, microfinance. As a result of the increasing use of electronic media for information sharing, the data, the analysis necessary to identify the inherent risk factor represent real challenges for now. Okay, the information generated are structured and come from different sources of information. Therefore, mutual such data mining are required. And finally, we focus only in inherent risk, but to achieve a comprehensive issue of money laundering, transaction risk, and institutional will be object of future research to the extent that we have access to all necessary information. Thank you.